years ago a question I really couldn't answer. They said, "What do you do? Why do you do this?" And I don't know where it came from, but I sort of turned to the journalist in a flip kind of way. I said, "I dream for a living." Years later, I realized, well, that's exactly what I do. I dream for a living. This is what I've done all my life. This is what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a movie director, and I thought I'd share with you how it all started.
Are we ready? Let's go! 3, 2, 1, action!
I think it all started out when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, and my father came over to me and said, "I'm going to take you to see the greatest show on earth." When you promise a 6, 7, 8-year-old young boy that you're about to see the greatest show on earth, I couldn't have been more excited. My father explained there were going to be lion tamers and circus acts. There were going to be clowns and trapeze artists. And I was absolutely delighted, and I looked forward to this for a week. Now, in the center of this movie, if any of you remember the Cecil B. DeMille film, Greatest Show on Earth, there's a tremendous train wreck where a train speeding along the tracks is encountered by a car, a person trying to stop the train to flag down the train, and the train hits the car flips over the top of the engine, and the train goes off the tracks, and there's a tremendous disaster where all the cars pile up. It was a special effect sequence. Later, I learned it was a miniature train, but it was as real as I've ever seen anything in my life. It was the greatest disaster I ever beheld, and for me, it began my interest not in making movies, but in asking my dad to get me a Lino electric train. So I went from wanting to become part of this incredible experience to wanting to own my first electric train. And that holiday season, my dad got me my first Lionel engine and a little coal car and a caboose and a few passenger cars. And the next year, I asked for the same thing. I said, "I'd like another engine." So I had 2 trains. And as I got older, I began to collect every year more and more cars and people and semaphores and crossing signals. I became a complete electric train nut. And I was really interested in seeing what it would look like if I could recreate that memory, now several years old, of the greatest show on earth, and could I recreate the train wreck? And I actually took my 2 trains and I just rammed them into each other. And the next week I crashed my trains into each other again, and the other train broke. And my dad said, "Look, I'm going to take the train set away. If you crash these things into each other one more time, you're not going to have trains anymore." I needed to see those trains crash into each other. And so I also didn't want to lose my train set. My dad had sitting around the house, which I always had taken for granted, this little 8mm Kodak film movie camera with a turret that had 3 lenses, kind of wide, medium, and close-up lens. I never really bothered with the camera. But I thought, well, I know what I can do. What if I film the trains crashing into each other? I can just watch the film over and over and over again. And that's how I made my first movie. Well, that's exactly what I did. Luckily, the trains didn't break, but I looked at that film over and over and over again. And then I thought, I wonder what else I could do with this camera. And that's how it began. And that's how I became a director. The first time I sensed that an audience was kind of agreeing with my choice of profession was when I was a Boy Scout, and I went out for the photography merit badge, and I wanted to, and the requirement in the merit badge simply said you have to tell a picture with still photographs. Our still camera broke. I went to the scoutmaster. I said, "Can I tell a story with our home movie camera?" He said yes, to fulfill the requirements for the merit badge. And I made a little Western called Gunsmog. And so we all brought our cowboy suits out, and I made this little Western movie and showed it to the Boy Scout troop on a Friday night when we had a meeting, and they went ballistic. They were screaming and clapping and laughing, both with and at the movie. I didn't care. It was a response. And the response set me on fire. It absolutely set me on fire, and I never wanted to live without some kind of affirmation, some kind of collective feedback. I think the beginning of my career, I had this wonderful experience, and the thing I really want to emphasize is I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. When you have a dream, and the dream isn't something you dream and then it happens. The dream is something you never knew was going to come into your life. Dreams always come from behind you, not right between your eyes. It sneaks up on you. But when you have a dream, it doesn't often come at you screaming in your face, this is who you are. This is what you must be for the rest of your life. Sometimes a dream almost whispers. And I've always said to my kids, the hardest thing to listen to, your instincts, your human personal intuition, always whispers. It never shouts. Very hard to hear. So you have to, every day of your lives, be ready to hear what whispers in your ear. It very rarely shouts. And if you can listen to the whisper, and if it tickles your heart, and it's something you think you want to do for the rest of your life, then that is going to be what you do for the rest of your life, and we will benefit from everything you do. Thank you very much.